There is a stillness in those first moments of dawn, a sacred pause before the world fully stirs. The hush that greets your senses is not emptiness, it is the whispering reality of presence, drawing your heart upward even before the sun crests the horizon. You awaken burdened, fatigued, distracted, yet in that hush lies a summons to remember your purpose, your standing, and the weight of unseen grace. Do not imagine that mornings are ordinary. The darkness, the silence, they are not mere prelude to light. They are the altar upon which the soul is offered. You may rise before your eyes even focus, and already you stand at the threshold of deep communion. That first breath, that soft exhale, the beat of the heart, they all echo that presence. It is there before your thoughts assemble, before your problems demand attention, before the day's demands press in. One who knows nothing of such presence may treat morning as an inconvenience, a moment to be rushed, filled with chatter and noise, scrambling from sleep into obligations. But the mature believer, the one who has tasted brokenness and grace, understands that morning is a gift. It is a sanctuary carved out of time, a rare window to encounter the living reality beyond sight, beyond circumstance. You must discipline your soul to be alert to that presence. You must hush the clamor of regret, fear, ambition. You must silence the shrill voices of distraction, the flickering screens, the hurried tasks, the anxious planning. For if you begin your day with noise, you fill the margins with clutter, and that silent presence struggles to speak. In morning quietude, the heart is unveiled. The masks you wore yesterday fall away. The pretenses, the defensiveness, the disguises, all are stripped by dawn's light. Without awakening to that presence, your day runs on autopilot. Decisions are made in the gravity of the world, not in submission to the one who holds you. The difference is stark between a day begun in presence and one begun in flesh. When the psalmist sang, "I rise early to cry for help," he did not mean it as a mere habit, he meant it as desperation, as dependence. The one who rises early understands that his need cannot wait. The darkness is not his friend, yet he rises. Why? Because within that darkness lies the promise of nearness. He chases not light, but nearness. The light is only the evidence. The goal is nearness. In that present moment, before your mind catalogues your tasks, before your heart is heavy with obligations, you are invited to listen. There is a voice, still small, louder than your racing thoughts, reminding you of the covenant, reminding you of mercy renewed, reminding you of the call. And when that voice is stifled by distraction, you starve your soul. Do not presume familiarity so much that you neglect this pursuit. Familiarity breeds contempt unless kept in trembling awe. The fact that presence is constant does not justify its neglect. The farmer who walks by the field daily does not cease to inspect the crop or till the soil. So too must you daily return your heart to that presence, lest weeds grow, corruption fester, devotion die. Some mornings you will awaken cheerful, light, expected ease in your spirit. Other mornings you will awaken burdened, heavy, tempted to despair. On those heavy mornings, presence is no less indeed, it shines brightest. Even when you feel nothing, the presence remains. Even when your spirit protests, it endures. It is your refuge when all else flees. You may say, "I sense nothing." Fine, but that lack of sense does not signal absence. The invitation is unchanged. Resist the temptation to evaluate presence by your feelings. Emotion is the fickle messenger, shifting with circumstances, diet, stress, relationships. The true measure of presence is obedience, faithfulness, love in low times as well as high. If obedience is offered while presence seems distant, that is faith, that is maturity. Do not withdraw when the felt presence wanes. The unseen reality remains firm, anchored in eternal covenant, not in mortal sensation. You must tear apart your day and set aside a portion for that quiet meeting. Some call it prayer or meditation, but beyond forms an attitude of one who waits, one who leans in, one who offers heart without agenda. Not a checklist, not a sales pitch, not a negotiation, but an offering. You come not to demand, but to receive. You come not to bend presence to your will, but to be shaped by that presence. In those morning moments, your vows must be renewed. The commitments made when life was easier are tested when the year turns, when health weakens, when relationships wound, when disappointment strikes. If you begin with renewed consecration, the day that follows bears the mark of resistance, of faithful endurance. You will not walk in fear, but in courage. You will not live for selfish gain, but for that higher call. You will not be crushed by opposition, for your heart has been anchored in presence before opposition erupted. Those who ignore this morning meeting will find their faith shallow, their resources dry, their character brittle. They will stumble, they will drift, they will live under the tyranny of their surroundings rather than under the sovereignty of that presence. And when calamity comes, and it will, they will waver, doubt, collapse. But those who awaken early, who seek, who cling, they are girded, they are sheltered, they have reserves. Listen, the difference between victory and defeat often lies in those first minutes. You may enter conflict, trial, temptation soon after leaving this room, but if your soul is fortified by presence, you will survive. The storms lash, but your root is deep. The winds howl, yet your frame is firm. The flame may threaten, but that which is ignited remains ablaze, because your morning was spent in the presence, and that presence gave you strength beyond your own. Do not allow the morning to pass without recognition. Even in the busiest season, carve a margin. It may be 5 minutes, 10, 20, 30, but begin there. The soul learns economy. Better a few humble minutes than none, and you will grow, those minutes will expand. You will hunger, you will press in, you will refuse to begin elsewhere, because when you begin in presence, the rest of the day is ordered by that encounter. Beware the mask of activity in the morning. Rising, washing, reading, tasks all honorable, but if these are used to hide, to postpone the heart's return, they become idols. Better to sit silent, listening, than to rush into an ambitious schedule that dulls your sensitivity. The one who moves into action without first anchoring his heart in presence drifts by default, not by design. There is a discipline in waiting, a posture of holy expectancy. The posture itself is meaningful. Bowed head, open hands, quiet breath. Not ornamental, but reflective of the internal state. You are not negotiating, you are surrendering. You are not persuading, you are receiving. You are not seeking novelty, you are seeking faithfulness. You are not summoning success, you are embracing suffering. You are not demanding comfort, you are learning dependence. Do not fear silence. In fact, let silence be your ally. Let it disarm the restless mind. Let it expose the heart's idols. In silence, presence speaks more clearly. The cacophony of your own intentions and desires must fade so that the single voice might be heard. If you multiply your words, you confuse. If you keep silence, you listen. Be still, not in laziness, but in intention, because in those early hours time is unclaimed. The world has not yet besieged the soul. The phone remains mute, the demands unvocalized. This is sacred. This is liminal between darkness and light, between sleep and waking, between yesterday's regrets and tomorrow's fears. And in that liminality lies a window wide open to presence. If you rush through, you forfeit the gift. Teach your heart to lunge toward that window. Teach your spirit to anticipate that meeting even before eyelids part. Let the first thought that rises be gratitude, broken humility, confession, adoration. Let awareness of presence be your compass. Let that communion recalibrate the heart's trajectory. From that vantage, the rest of the day is seen in its true significance. Even mundane tasks become bearers of purpose. What misery to live without this morning meeting, to scramble through days like a rudderless ship, tossed by every wave, to rely on vigor, emotion, momentum. Eventually vigor fades, emotion betrays, momentum ceases, and the soul founders. But to anchor in presence early, even amidst fatigue, sorrow, despair, is to secure the keel. Even if you feel nothing, that anchor holds. Trouble will rise, trials, temptations, distractions, they will come. Some days your mind will resist the meeting. Some days the weight of things will press so heavily that you feel unworthy, dry, numb. Yet precisely then, especially then, you must return. Let the lack of feeling be no excuse. Let that absence of enthusiasm not keep you away. Return anyway. Demonstrate by your faith that presence is not earned by sensation, but received by persistent trust. Be warned, the enemy hates mornings. He wants to steal your soul before the sun rises. He whispers in dreams, burdens the spirit, agitates the mind. He fills the margins before light with fear, regret, preoccupation, cynicism. But you fight back fight by rising early, by claiming silence, by anchoring your heart. Do not let the first battle go to him. Surround yourself wisely. If possible, learn from others committed to morning devotion. Share your struggles. Encourage one another to press in even when comfort beckons. For there is strength in numbers. The one who resists alone may yield. The one who perseveres with companions is emboldened. But the primary battle is individual. It is internal. It is between your flesh and the invitation. The flesh resists vulnerability. The flesh craves control. Flesh would rather plan, strategize, analyze, distract. Flesh would rather postpone communion, saying, later, when conditions are better, I'll meet. But the kingdom does not work on flesh's schedule. The summons is immediate. The call is now. You must settle this. Daily communion is not optional. It is not reward for a good performance. It is the lifeline. It is not to be postponed. It is not to be weighed against pressing obligations. It is the priority. It is that for which all else bends. If your day is built without this foundation, it is built on sand. Let the memory of past encounters spur you. Recall mornings when the soul glow lingered, when tears came unbidden, when burdens lifted, when clarity broke through. Those were not accidents. They were moments of presence. Do you remember? Then hunger to return. Let that memory kindle. Do not treat it as stale nostalgia, but as testimony of what is real, what is possible, what will be again if you pursue. Understand also, to begin in presence is not guarantee against hardship. It is not a charm for protection or prosperity. You may yet face affliction, testing, disappointment, heartbreak. But in that presence you are not alone, you are not forsaken, you are upheld. Presence does not prevent the fire, it walks through it with you. You must not hide from the presence with sin. If the morning reveals secret darkness, confess it, repent, turn holy. The presence is not harmed by your confession. Rather, confession aligns you with reality. The one with whom you commune is not threatened by your brokenness, but your brokenness must be brought to light, not nurtured in shadows. Morning light exposes disease so healing can begin. Let your morning conclude not with a flourish, but with a settled consequence. Having met, having listened, having offered what you can, arise with intention. Carry that presence into your interactions, your work, your conflicts. Let decisions bear the imprint of communion. Let your speech, your choices, your priorities dance to that tune. Presence encountered at dawn will anchor integrity by noon. The trials of the day will test that soil. Crucible will come, disappointment, losses, misunderstandings, wounds. But you who began in presence need not collapse. You who have tasted nearness can press through. You who have anchored your hope in more than self can stand. You will live not by what you feel, but by what you know that presence is near, and that nearness determines your walk. Resist complacency. After years you may feel secure, self-satisfied, confident that mornings happen automatically. That is dangerous. The one who rests on method, on ritual, on routine, forgets the heart. The meeting must forever be alive, fresh, vigilant. You must guard it. You must defend it. You must return to it in dependence every dawn. And let your children, your household, your congregation see that priority. Let them observe that you rise early, that you stagger from sleep to kneel, that you open the pages, that you linger in silence. Let your life teach them that presence is not abstract but concrete. The world will tell them to rise rushed, but you will show them a different way. When occasions steal your morning traveling, illness, crisis, adapt. Rise anyway, even if only in bed. Open eyes, whisper confession, lift a fragment of praise, offer your heart. Even 5 minutes in that presence is stronger than hours void of it. Do not yield the meeting because of inconvenience. Presence does not demand comfort. It demands faithfulness. Remember, other lovers will compete for your soul, your ambition, your reputation, your comfort, your relationships all will tug on your morning. They will say, sleep more, hurry, skip it. But they lie. Presence bears more weight than fleeting ease. You must say no to lesser loves, so you may say yes to the highest ground. Do not be surprised when mornings resist you. The soul dulls, the routine becomes dull, the flesh recoils, the enemy whispers lies, you are too tired, you will catch up later, nothing is happening. These are lies to rob you. Resist, press on. The true meeting always transforms, even if the change is slow. Often the deepest work is subterranean, unseen for years. Be patient. Presence cultivated is not for the impatient. You will not always sense the harvest. Some mornings yield drought, some produce sweetness, but either way, faithfulness is your charge. You do not measure by feeling, but by return. Return when broken, return when numb, return when overwhelmed. The summons is unchanged. One day, in the hour of death or suffering, those mornings will bear fruit. The whisper once heard will sustain through darkness. The anchor once dropped will hold amid storm. The meeting once kept will illumine even when all else fades. Let that hope spur you now. Let each dawn be an investment into eternity. Your life is a testimony. If you live without encountering presence, your testimony weakens. The world sees your busyness, your fallibility, your stress, but cannot see your hidden communion. Yet that unseen communion shapes the visible life. If you practice morning presence, you will walk differently. You will not be spineless or erratic. You will be a vessel of steadiness, integrity, humility, courage. You will not fear darkness because you have tasted presence beyond darkness. You will not shrink from trials because you have known the sustaining word. You will not pursue frivolity because you have seen what truly satisfies. You will not waste your life chasing shallow things because in morning silence you have glimpsed what remains. So rise early, even when the body groans. Rise even when the spirit feels barren. Rise because presence waits. Stir the soul, stir the heart. Engage even if reluctantly. Begin in the hush before the world clamors. Let that meeting set the tone for all that follows. Let no hour be foreign to that early encounter. Let every burden, every joy, every decision be begun in that place. May you be hardened to neglect, fortified against sloth. May your eyes open not to plans, but to nearness. May your heart recognize that you are not alone, that all blessing flows from that presence. May your lips first speak adoration, not complaint. May your hands open before they grasp. May your life be shaped not by chance, but by covenant. May your perseverance outlast distraction. May your resolve endure opposition. May your faithfulness be louder than convenience. In the hush of morning, presence reigns. Do not move until the heart has listened. Do not embark until the soul is anchored. Do not assume you may return later. This moment is precious, irrevocable. Begin with what matters. Then let the world take up its place beneath the weight of your testimony. Your life may be small, but when grounded in morning presence, it is formidable. Before the distractions of life begin, the early hours are sacred and must be set apart for quiet communion, confession, and surrender. This morning meeting is not optional for the faithful. It is essential for spiritual strength, clarity, and perseverance. Whether or not God's presence is felt emotionally, consistent pursuit builds spiritual endurance, deepens trust, and shapes a life of integrity that can withstand suffering, temptation, and the pull of worldly distractions. There is something profoundly strategic in rising early, in carving out a segment of time where the world still slumbers and darkness lingers longer than the distractions of day. The hour before sunrise is not merely a gap to be filled. You are given a sacred margin, a threshold between night and light, between unconsciousness and engagement. In that thin boundary lies an invitation to return your soul to what matters, to begin not with noise, but with nearness. Every sunrise whispers, before you race, before you plan, before you assume the weight of your day, pause. Let your heart find rest in presence before you chase performance. Imagine yourself stirring in the dimness. Your mind may still be fogged by dreams, regrets, worries, desires. They warble just beneath surface consciousness. It is easy to ignore that turmoil by launching into activity, by reaching for your phone, by filling the silence with tasks. But the mature soul refuses such a betrayal. It says, the first hours of my life each day cannot be surrendered to noise, distraction, demand. The first hours must be claimed. They must be held for the hidden, the sacred, the unseen. To claim them is to say, I will not begin this day building walls before I kneel. I will not armor myself before I listen. I will not walk off in my strength until I remember I do not stand on my own. It is a posture of humility, of dependence. And it is not optional. If your day is constructed apart from that meeting, the rest of your life will fight to dominate your soul by default. You must structure your morning, not leave it to chance. Decide now, you will rise, you will still your heart, you will attend, discipline is required. There will be mornings when your body protests, your limbs ache, your spirit is heavy, you may feel nothing stirring, nothing responded to. Resist the lies that say, not now, too tired, wait until later. For those are cunning temptations to abort the meeting before it begins. Press through, get up, bathe the mind in darkness stillness. Sit with the weight of your need. Offer the silence, even when your lips are dry. Offer the breath, even when the way seems distant. Do not demand dramatic sensation. Do not require thunder or ecstasy before you linger. If your heart quivers, stay. If it is numb, stay. If anger or bitterness well up, stay, not to remain mired, but to offer. Confess, lay it bare. Do not turn away from the ache. The meeting of the morning is not a performance, not a ritual, not a bargaining session. It is communion, and communion often occurs in quiet interior exchange where the soul is honest and stripped. Let your awareness of presence, though unseen, be your compass. Let your breath whisper of dependence. Let your heart kneel before it moves. Do not march into action before the soul is inspected. Do not barter your integrity for productivity. Do not allow the agenda of the world to silence the agenda of eternity. The early hours are your hedge, your buffer against rushing. If you begin in haste, you will remain in haste. If you begin in presence, haste may still come, but it will not dominate. Recognize that the presence you seek is constant even when not felt. It does not float with your emotion. It is not captive to your performance. It does not rise and fall with your sense of receptivity. It is anchored to covenant, to unchanging promise. Therefore, the absence of awareness is no excuse. You are not required to feel to come. You come because commitment calls. You come because truth demands. You come because the day's weight will demand strength. You come because the soul's poverty will betray unless fortified. You will find in these morning meetings the inner power to endure. The day will press. Conflict will intrude. Relationships will wound. The quest for comfort, approval, security, all will tug at your resolve. If your soul began in nearness, the day will carry a different weight. You will speak differently, decide differently, bear differently. The unseen meeting behind your eyes will bear fruit in visible acts: kindness, integrity, patience, courage. Notice how the world attempts to steal your mornings. Phones buzzing, alarms set to ring, the habit of dragging screens into darkness, the tyranny of being connected, reaches into the first moments. But you stand against that. You solemnly vow, first light is not for calls, not for scrolling, not for planning. First light is reserved for silence, for listening, for surrender. Only then may the world beckon. You guard this margin fiercely, knowing its value. When you rise early, your heart has fewer preconceptions. There are no voices yet demanding your allegiance. The air is purer. The hunger of your spirit is more honest. You are awake to more than the familiar. You are attuned to things unseen. In that moment you are small, dependent, aware. You are accessible. In that space walls tumble, pretenses fall away. You remember what is basic, what is invisible, what is essential. It is a reset, a recalibration, a recollection of truth. If you neglect this time, you willingly give your soul to chaos. You allow the day's demands to form you rather than allow presence to shape your steps. You live reactive rather than proactive. You labor under anxiety, scattered, worn. You end the day bewildered, wondering where your soul went. This meeting, it is the tether, it roots, it secures, it is the anchor in the storm. Without it, you drift, recover a sense of awe. Do not approach this meeting casually. Do not go through the motions. Do not repeat stale phrases while you stare at the floor. Approach trembling. Approach expectant. Approach with reverence, as though something eternal meets something mortal, as though the invisible upholds the visible, because it does. The morning is an open door to that mystery. Do not pass through unawares. You may ask, what do I do in that silence? You confess your failings. You bring your wounds. You bring your hopes, your frailties, your need. You petition. You wait. You meditate on covenant, on promises, on unchanging truth. You listen. You yield. You remember your identity not as defined by circumstances, but as grounded in that loyal presence. You offer your day's stewardship. You invite shaping. You ask for strength. You plead for mercy. You stand in honesty, not in illusion. Sometimes you will leave feeling drained, unfulfilled, unsure. But that is not evidence of failure. That is part of the path. The meeting is not measured by feeling. The meeting is measured by fidelity, by returning, by intention, by refusing to veer. Over time you will see change. The seeds sown in silence grow roots unseen. The strength you need will emerge, the character deepens, the soul becomes resilient not by circumstance but by repeated choosing. Teach your mind to crave this meeting, let the preed on become your ally, let anticipation rise in your spirit, let your soul stir before your body. Let prayer, confession, listening, waiting become instinct before breakfast, before news, before obligations. Let your first awareness be for presence, not productivity. You will find that when storms hit, you recollect the morning. You say, "Back then I sat in silence. Back then I remembered. Back then I heard." You travel into crisis yoked to that memory. You do not collapse because you carry reserves. In the darkest times, that secret meeting nurtured you. In seasons of dryness, that morning discipline sustained you. In times of triumph, that meeting humbled you. It shaped your gratitude. It shaped your dependence. Refuse to be discouraged by seasons when breakthrough seems far. Mornings will sometimes feel sterile. Sometimes the meeting seems barren. But the practice of return is your steadfast obedience. It is not faithlessness to feel nothing. It is faithfulness to return. The invisible is working even when we do not see. The unseen presence sustains even when we do not feel. The commitment you make in the hush echoes into days you will never measure. Imagine the life shaped by these mornings. You rise, kneel, yield, wait, confess, listen. You step into your day not weighed down but carried. You enter meetings, family, work, conflict, temptation, not under your own momentum but held. You respond not in panic but from rooted calm. You forgive more freely because you know forgiveness. You love more deeply because you have known being loved. You speak with integrity because your inner ear has heard truth. You live less by impulse and more by covenant. You stand firm when all around shifts. You die well because your soul has practiced eternal reality. Let no comfort or convenience displace this meeting. Let no season of busyness convince you you can omit it. Let no rationalization, "I'll catch up later," seduce you. Each dawn is unique and cannot be recaptured. The hour lost is gone. The moment wasted becomes a void. Your discipline is now. Your decision is now. Your commitment is now. If you begin in presence, you live by presence. If you begin in silence, you carry silence. If you begin in dependence, you walk in humility. If you begin each day this way, the sum of your life will bow to what you choose this hour. So rise, stir, kneel, breathe, sit, confess, wait, listen, lean, offer, yield. Let the soul attend before it moves. Let your life grow outward from that inner meeting. Let your strength, your hope, your courage, your endurance, your integrity all flow from the encounter before the world awakes. Faithfulness to morning devotion anchors the soul for all of life's trials by establishing a root system in unseen ground, by building a hidden reservoir of strength, by orienting our heart to realities beyond the shifting circumstances of day. To live without that anchor is to drift, to become vulnerable to panic, to fall apart when pressure mounts, but to remain constant in that devotion, even when the dawn seems empty, means your soul is armored, your footing sure, your hope steady. Consider how often we are assailed by trial. Some are expected: relational betrayal, financial loss, disappointment, affliction, inner conflict, temptation, grief, sickness. Others are sudden: collapse of health, the death of a loved one, loss of reputation, unexpected calamity. In the moment of trial, your emotions cascade, your thoughts spin, the ground feels unsteady. It is precisely then that the soul must have an anchor not in comfort, not in emotion, not in the shifting sands of circumstance, but in that daily devotion to the presence from dawn. The consistency of morning devotion is like laying row upon row of sheath around your heart, so that the blows that would shatter one layer strike another, and another, and yet your core remains. Faithfulness means returning day after day in weakness, in distraction, in dryness. It means refusing to skip because you feel tired, because your mind is dull, because you believe there's nothing new to say. It means even when the heart says, "It is enough," you say, "No, I will return." That repeated return builds in the soul a muscle, the muscle of steadfastness. It trains the will to choose presence over ease, faith over retreat, covenant over convenience. When the furnace comes, that muscle remembers the posture, and the soul can stand it. In the years of drought, those muscles do not vanish. They are not lost. They are the bones beneath, reminding muscles where to cling. The devotions of years confer the capacity to endure years of darkness. When the weight of trial presses in, you may feel disoriented. You may wonder where God is, whether your prayers matter, whether you are forgotten. The soul wavers, but the one anchored by morning devotion has memories not just of feeling, but of faith in action. You remember mornings you knelt when you would have rather slept, mornings you pressed in when your body resisted, mornings you clung when your heart doubted. Those memories are crystals of testimony. In the moment of testing, you hear your own whisper, "You have done this before. You rose when weary. You continued when numb. You leaned when hollow. You will lean now too." That internal echo strengthens the trembling heart. Beyond memory lies the deeper work. The presence encountered in mornings is not only a memory, but a reality that sustains. The devotion is not just a rehearsal, but a meeting. The meeting is not just inward, but dynamic. The presence you sought then is the same when suffering invades. The discipline of morning devotion teaches you are not sustained by emotion, but by covenant. You learn that presence is not reward, but ground. You learn that you are not primarily participants seeking emotional payoffs. You are souls anchored in an unseen presence that does not shift with your feelings. And so when the trial comes, you do not flinch at absence of feeling. Your soul has been taught the language of faith apart from sensation. The anchor operates by reminding orientation. When despair wants to draw your gaze to loss, you recall the presence you sought in mourning. When bitterness wants to twist your memory, you recall the silent confession, the yielded heart, the moment when you laid down your pride before rising. That orientation, morning devotion, becomes the lens through which your trial is filtered, not vice versa. Without that, the trial writes its own narrative over your life. With it, you rid the trial through covenant, through promise, through presence. Walking in faithfulness day after day also guards you from hasty reactions in trial. When calamity strikes, the flesh leaps to vengeance, to fear, to impulsive compromise, to selfish escape. But the one whose soul has known morning devotion doesn't disregard haste. He doesn't betray his heart in stress. Because each day he practiced silence, waiting, yielding, listening, he has trained the soul in deliberation. He doesn't fall headlong into sin or panic, because in the stillness he has practiced remembering that not all responses must be dictated by heat. So he resists taking shortcuts of expedience. He resists acting from ego or fear. He waits, seeks wisdom, leans on that morning, formed trust. Moreover, that devotion births resilience. The repeated act of returning, no matter how feeble, teaches the soul that trial may bruise but not undo. The soul learns that absence of joy is not the end, that loss is not the end, that darkness is not the end. Because in the discipline of devotion, you have built a space where faith holds even when sensations fail. You have practiced silence when you would rather speak, patience when you would rather act, trust when you would rather doubt. Such practice trains the soul in long suffering, in abiding, in waiting for dawn, even in midnight. You cannot imagine how much is at stake. The one who is faithful to morning devotion resists despair because he has tasted morning grace before. He refuses to collapse under sorrow because in years past he planted seed in still ground. He can journey through anguish without losing the self because his core is anchored. He can return from failure without disintegration because the meeting he missed once is not the only meeting he's known. In short, trial does not have final word over the soul. That meeting reserves a claim. Notice also, faithfulness in morning devotion is an exposure of love. It declares that the presence is not incidental, but priority. It says, "You matter, this meeting matters, this unseen covenant matters more than the comfort of my sleep." That posture of love is not shallow, it costs something, and that cost forms character. The character formed by that cost is the character that will persist under trial, not crumbling, not folding, not running. Trial is often quieter than we expect. It is not always a sudden jock, lynching crisis. Often it is the daily drip of disappointments, betrayals, weariness, unanswered prayers. Over years, the soul is gradually eroded, but one who is faithful to morning devotion has daily reclaimed ground. Each morning is a retaking of territory. Each morning you kneel, you resist drift, you resist erosion, and this matter compounds. The years of small faithfulness make you less susceptible to slow attrition. The soul accrues margin, the heart accrues reserves. When the drip comes, it sees counter. Force already laid, the attrition is slowed. This is why faithfulness is not glamorous. Many imagine great trials demand great faith, but the highest faith is in the mundane, in the repeated return when the soul is tired, when the body resists, when the sense seems thin. That is the real fight. The deep warfare is in the daily choices when glory is not yet seen. If you abandon devotion because nothing seems happening, you betray your own soul. But if you persist, you become a hidden giant. The next trial arrives. You are not the same. You are no longer blown about by the gust. You are sustained from beneath. But faithfulness is expensive. You will lose mornings. You will fail. You will oversleep. You will wander in your thoughts. You will forget to kneel. You will yield to distraction. You will feel ashamed. But failure in that devotion does not nullify the work already done. The treasure is not lost because you stumble. The anchor is not unfastened because you trip. Return, reclaim, begin again. Part of the faithfulness is refusing finality to failure. You may lose a morning, but you do not lose the devotion. You may neglect days, weeks, but you return. The thread reconnects. The anchor re-engages. The soul remembers that good ways are not lost by one fall. Also note, this faithfulness guards guard against spiritual superficiality. Many live in shallow waters, quick to praise when emotions run high, quick to despair when trials hit. But the one whose soul is anchored in morning devotion knows depth. He knows that devotion means the presence is not performance. He knows that sanctification is not in emotional peaks, but in daily obedience. He knows that intimacy is not excitement, but loyalty. He knows that maturity is not sensation, but steadiness, that steadiness is cultivated by faithfulness. There is also a contagion. Your faithfulness influences those around you. Others see it, even if they don't know the morning. They see a person who weathers storms, who doesn't collapse under pressure, who demonstrates kindness in conflict, who carries joy in sorrow. That visible consistency is rooted in invisible devotion. When people ask, "How can you endure?" the secret is in those mornings. The anchor is unseen, but the effect shows in public life. So the price of devotion is not private only. It is an offering for others too. When trial forces you to choose a shorter path, You will be tempted to abandon devotion to deal with the crisis, but that is the very moment you must cling more tenaciously. Cutting back on devotion when mountain is steep is like cutting off your lifeline in the deep climb. You do not discard the rope when you need it most, so when trial intensifies, do not shrink devotion, rather adapt, but maintain the meeting, even in bed, even in sickness, even in despair. Bow your heart, offer a prayer, recollect your dependence. A brief surrender is better than none, a broken kneeling is better than absence. Sometimes trial is protracted, and the soul grows weary. Years of struggle, unanswered pleas, land of shadow. Yet if your morning devotion has been faithful, you carry a banner of hope. You walk not by what is seen, but by what is promised. You lean on the unseen presence. You refuse to quit. You endure, because those mornings trained the soul to hold on, to persist, to believe beyond sight. You have already practiced the long game in small increments. So when the long night comes, you do not yield early. You stand, you wait, you hope. I want you to see, to abandon devotion when trials come is to cut your own roots. It is to dig out the anchor in the moment when you most need it. It is to remove your shield in battle. Perhaps the enemy lies to you. You must abandon devotions to survive this trial. But that is a trap. The very survival depends on the devotion. The very capacity to endure depends on the hidden meeting. You do not eject the anchor in the storm. You cling tighter. You brace your knees. You claim the meeting even when you cannot feel it. You assert faith against the trembling of feeling. Faithfulness to morning devotion is also an act of worship. It is saying that presence is highest, that communion is not a cover but a core, that your response is not contingent but committed. When the storms come, it is not faith in faith that saves. It is faith in presence, faith in energy beyond your energy, faith in that which does not change. And that faith is forged in the hours before sunrise, in quiet, consistent devotion. The devotion does not secure you by itself, but plants you in the resources that do. So when the trial rages, your soul doesn't fracture. You don't collapse. You don't abandon. You don't despair. You remember, in the mornings I knelt. In the darkness I leaned. In days of drought I persevered. You recall not because you wear it lightly, but because you have lived it. You return to what shaped you. You re-anchor. You reaffirm. You endure. The trial presses. The storms howl. But the honest, anchored soul stands because it has faithfully begun so many mornings in the meeting, in the fold, in the silent dependence. That faithfulness is the tether that holds when the gale would sweep away a lesser root.